What's up, 2K crew? Yes, it is that time of the week again. It is podcast time, and we got one hell of a show ready for you today. We are recording on Saturday. We're live streaming now on
Sunday.
Oh, it is Sunday. You're right.
Wish it was Saturday.
Yeah. Putting the cart before the horse today. But we've kind of gotten into the new schedule of live streaming on Sundays at 1:00. So reset your DVRs, reset your schedules, because that's when we're doing our thing. So, and if you are watching us live, go ahead and feel free to drop a comment, and we'll feature you on the show. But 2Ks, we've got, man, pretty stoked about this March Madness thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of March Madness content coming to you today. And when on the back end of the show, we are going to have some spring training baseball, kind of seeing where things are going, giving you our first impressions of, obviously, the new season getting kicked off. So get locked in, get settled in, because we got, like I said, we got a really, really awesome show, and you have found the Turbo.
It's the Turbo and 2K show.
All right, my friend. Well, 2K's. I've renamed this first little slide here, the box score, where we're gonna get all the YouTuber things set aside, all the podcasting things aside. So if you guys do find value in the live stream, like I said, go ahead and drop a comment, and we'll put your comment on the screen and feature you. And if you have any questions, same thing. But if you are consuming on the audio side, wherever you get your audio content, feel free to subscribe. That'll help the channel out a lot. And on the YouTube side, if you want to subscribe, again, drop a comment. That helps us out too. And if you want to support the channel even further, go to buyturboabeer.com, and that will financially help us out. So any way that you choose, or if you just want to sit in the back and watch and listen, that's fine with us too. So, with all that aside, 2Ks, I'm pretty fucking stoked about this, about March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Because A, we didn't have one last year.
Yeah.
And B, man, the landscape of just the whole feel of this tournament, the whole landscape is different than years previous. As we're going to get into it, we're probably not going to see Duke in the tournament field in like 25 years. Izzo is getting those boys in by the skin of their teeth. So the blue bloods that we're normally seeing on top are not necessarily the ones that are on top this year. So for the non-college basketball fan per se, you're going to see a lot of names that you're not familiar with, and a lot of players that we're really not familiar with, unless you're diehard fans of that conference, that team. So this could go any number of ways. We've got a team in Gonzaga that's sitting atop, undefeated but untested. We've got Baylor at number 2 that after their COVID time off, really hasn't hit their return to the stride that they were on. And then we've got a Michigan team sitting at 3 that I think you kind of gave the Turbo and 2K's jinx to. And was it Illinois number 4?
Yeah.
So,
and that's who
Illinois is looking strong.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're our resident Big Ten expert. So we always kind of start off these conversations with the Big Ten. So kind of give me, because from what Joe Lunardi is saying, there's probably going to be 10 teams from the Big Ten in.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been thinking too. But I think just kind of the way that things have played out here in the last week and a half of the season, I don't really think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to end up with 9, with the potential to only end up with 8, depending on what happens with Michigan State. I think Michigan State's kind of that bubble team, but if they get knocked off by Michigan again today, and then don't win a game in the conference tournament, it's going to be very hard for them to slide in there because. I mean, just the way that they closed out the season, and then the other team, being kind of on the bubble, Indiana, I don't think they have any chance at all anymore. They've lost their last 5 games. They've all been pretty good opponents that they've lost to, but they have I think their total record now is 10-14 or something like that. So
yeah, and you can't have a sub 500 record and get into the tournament, in my opinion, unless there's. I know there's always extenuating circumstances. I get that. And with the field ever growing, we've got the playing games, we've got all this stuff going on. Would it happen? Sure, but do you think do I think it's deserving? No. But yeah, it's and you're right. Indiana has been on, where Michigan State is kind of ramped up towards the end of the season. Illinois or Indiana's kind of the complete opposite. So now, when it comes to, let's say, because you got Ohio State in there, that's a very, very formidable team that can, I think that if they hit the right stride, could very well make a deep run in the tournament, if not contend for a national title. And same to say with Michigan and Illinois and even Iowa for not. I'm not as confident in saying that Iowa could make a very. I mean, they could make some noise for sure. I mean, they got one of the best players in the country, so I think anything is kind of possible with that team. But it's in my opinion, no matter how Michigan or Illinois play in the Big Ten tournament, I don't think there's any way that they lose a number 1 seed.
No, I don't think so either.
Because the projected number 1 seeds are, of course, Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Illinois. Mm-hmm. And it goes to show you that how deep and how strong the Big Ten Conference is when a number 1 seed can have a 6-loss season so far and still be a number 1 seed. So I think that goes to show you exactly how, and to have two of them in those number 1 slots. So obviously there's not any other conference that has that, but just we've been, for those of you that have been following us, we've been pumping and praising the Big Ten Conference for how deep and how strong they are, and it just goes. I mean, it's point proven right now. So another conference to keep an eye on is the Big 12, and we talked about Cade Cunningham before. Again, like we talked about it in a couple of previous episodes. If you haven't seen this kid play, I mean, you really need to. And then if you haven't, I guarantee he's going to be featured in a lot of if he's healthy, because he did not play yesterday,
but they still won.
Yeah,
top. I think West Virginia last night was number 6 team in the nation, which they're going to fall because they dropped 2 games this week. They dropped to Baylor also, but that Baylor West Virginia game. That was a good overtime game. Was an awesome game Thursday night.
And Oklahoma State beat them without their top 2 scorers. So it just goes to show you how. And Oklahoma State is one of those sneaky teams. I mean, with Cunningham healthy, I don't think I of course, like I said, like we said in previous episodes, ESPN just follows this kid. So I've got to see a lot of him and that team play, and it seems like even the games they've lost in that Big 12 conference have all been by single digits, and a lot of them in overtime. And even a lot of these overtime games, this kid is drilling game winners. I mean, even for a young-ass kid that he is, I mean, it seems like he's got, ice in his veins. So whichever team ends up with him in the lottery is going to have a fantastic player. But to me, that they're one of those teams that I would not want to face in the first 2 rounds, or even the first, if they make it into the second weekend, because they're scary. They're a lot of their losses came in the beginning of the season, so, and they're a very young team, so it like we've been pumping the Big Ten, but rightfully so. The Big 12 is right there with them. They're not quite as deep, but there's some really, really, Baylor's sitting at the top of that list, and I'm still sticking by my Baylor being the best team in the nation. I'm still sticking by that. And before we get too deep into this 2K crew, I'm going to say either by Tuesday, I will have the bracket challenge up. And so if for those of you listening and or watching, if you're not a part of the 2K crew, go to facebook.com/groups/2K crew, and you can get in on the ESPN bracket challenge that we run every year. It's $10 to get in, and I'll have my PayPal, all my PayPal stuff in there, so we can get you a payment and get you the password to the group. And I think I'm going to allow up to 3 brackets this year. I think that's what we did last year. I think 5 is way too many. So three brackets, $10 for 3 brackets, not $10 per bracket. So I'll have that up by Tuesday. It's really easy. I'm just really lazy right now. And my plan was to have it for today so we can bring it to you. But yes, I bricked. I'll take the L on that one. But I've been kind of rambling on here, 2K. So how about I give you the floor and let me get your thoughts on leading into all of these conference tournaments. Kind of where you see things going, and just your thoughts overall.
Yeah, first of all, with the top 4 teams in the nation, I don't think that changes anyway. I think the only way that it could possibly change,
I think those are solid.
if Iowa was to, because Iowa's going to be that number 5 team right now. If they were to make a run in the tournament, possibly win the tournament, I could see them possibly jumping, taking the place of either Michigan or Illinois in that. But I don't think that Ohio State, they're a team they've scuffled here down the stretch. I think since the Michigan loss, that was such a good game there a couple weekends ago. I don't think they've won a game since. They dropped a game to Michigan State. They dropped a game to Illinois.
Illinois game yesterday was a really good game.
Yeah.
That was back and forth the entire game.
And they lost to Iowa by I think right around 20 points in that game. Just haven't not looked like a very good team. I don't really know what's happened there. They're a team that they need. To me, I think they need to make a little bit of a run in this tournament. I mean, obviously they're going to be in there. I think they've kind of fallen to probably being a possible 3 seed, maybe even a 4 seed in it, just because of the way they've played here lately. But they're a team I think that needs to win a game or 2 in the tournament just to kind of get back into get the momentum going back their way going into the tournament. And then we're talking about the Big 12, like what you were saying, Oklahoma State going and beating West Virginia yesterday without Cade Cunningham. I mean, that was very impressive. Definitely a team that playing some of their best basketball now, and I'm not sure you really want to run into them in the tournament.
No.
But I mean, I've said kind of the same thing about Oklahoma State all year: is they can score with pretty much anybody in the nation. I question if their defense is going to be able to hold up to some of these really good offenses, like your Gonzaga, like a Michigan, like a Baylor, and more teams that they're in the top. Their defensively, they struggle at times. West Virginia is a team that their offense struggles at times, and yesterday their offense was terrible. And but give the credit to Oklahoma State for winning it. And then, I mean, I guess the thing that I'm the most excited about is just watching some of these tournaments play off, and especially the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, we're Big Ten, fans. We talk about them all the time. But seeing some of these teams, like, I'm really curious to see what Michigan State shows up against Michigan today in the final regular season game. I mean, obviously, it's a huge game. It's a lot bigger game for them. Michigan's already locked up the Big Ten. They're going to be the 1 seed. They've won the Big Ten. That nothing can, that can't be taken away from them. But Michigan State is playing for their, to have a postseason. I mean, right where they stand right now, if they lose today to Michigan in the final game, and then I'm not sure who they'll match up with in the Big Ten tournament, but say they lose again, they're probably not in. I mean, if you look at, then you're going to look at them losing 4 games in a row down the stretch in the end, and you kind of forget about that big win that they had against Illinois and the other big win that you had against Ohio State, because they have to end their season, to me, with at least winning either today or winning a game or two in the tournament in order to make it. So, yeah, I'm curious to watch it, kind of see what happens with all these conference tournaments. I mean, we had all this taken away from us last year. We weren't able to watch. They started the conference tournaments, and then all of a sudden they didn't have them. They canceled them all kind of right at that time, and then March Madness was taken away from us. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for it to go down.
Dogs are excited too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Dogs are excited too. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they just kind of yanked the rug out from under us, and was like, nope, sorry. And it kind of overall it puts things into perspective, because this lockdown's going on over a year now. COVID's been here for a year. So yeah, it is. Culturally, if you look at it that way, but you're right. And even when we're watching card breaks, with the rookies that were drafted this year, it's like, man, I really wish I could have watched some of these teams in the tournament so I could get to know these kids a little better. But I mean, obviously the Dogs are extremely excited for March Madness. They're kind of echoing our sentiments as well. But probably the Amazon guy is here, and they're probably trying to eat the Amazon guy. So I do apologize for that. But you know what? Dogs are going to be dogs, but no big deal. No big deal. But it's one game that well, first of all, let's take a step back here. Something I need to get off my chest, because my Notre Dame faithful was allowed into watch their first basketball game of the year earlier this week, and they were chanting, "Fire Coach Bray. Fire Coach Bray." Notre Dame faithful, we just take a step fucking back. Take a step back. Mike Bray is the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. And on top of that, the next game, they go out and beat a number 11 ranked Florida State. Oh, yes, Notre Dame has had a season that, a forgettable season. But they haven't had there's not the one standout guy that usually drags the team into the top 25, like your Luke Herringotes or, even, a handful of other guys. I mean, they're just not, it's a down year. It's a down year. And, if you really want to think about it, I mean, I wouldn't consider Mike Bray into that blue blood category like a Coach K or something like that. But as far as longevity, yeah, he's in that conversation. But has he brought home a national title? No. Has he made deep runs into the NCAA tournament here recently? Absolutely. Absolutely. But come on, guys. I know you're frustrated. But fire Coach Bray, nah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. So just calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. But speaking of Blue Bloods, we had the final North Carolina Duke game last night. The Tobacco Road game. The greatest rivalry in college basketball. That game wasn't a rivalry game at all.
Mm-mm.
North Carolina just kicked Duke in the nuts and just ran all over them last night. I want to say it was the second largest victory in points differential in the whole rivalry. So Duke didn't even lead at any point in that game. It was horrible. And there were a lot of folks that were saying that Coach K needed to win that game so that his streak, which I think is the longest or third longest streak for getting into the tournament, the third longest streak in history, which will end. And just something about that Duke team, they just could not get it to work this year. But then again, we've talked about it at great lengths on this show. I mean, it's okay to have a down year. You look at Coach Cal. I mean, you can visibly see on his face the frustration level of how, and I'm Duke is a way better team than Kentucky right now, hands down. I don't think I've ever seen a Coach Cal team that's been under 500, and this is the first time. And they were showing a video of him just putting his hands on his knees and shaking his head. And you would think by this time of the year, you would at least find some cohesion.
Mm.
And I think that not only obviously that falls on the players, but it falls onto the coach, the program. And I was thinking about this last night when when I kept peeking in on the Duke North Carolina game. It's like, all right, well, if these guys are such great coaches, I mean, granted they have their system, their culture, obviously they've been there forever. Wouldn't you think you would kind of learn to adapt your system to the players that you have? Same with Coach Izzo. I mean, you guys have been there forever.
Mm.
You've coached probably every single personality under the sun. I think that says a lot more about the coach than the players. They're the recruits that the coach wanted in there, and now they're just not getting anything from them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really tell me that, well, these players don't fit the system. Why the fuck did you recruit them?
Mm.
Which I understand that not every recruit is going to progress and blossom into your system like you hope. I get that. Yeah, I get that. But you would think that you would try to, especially in a forgettable season like the three that we mentioned. Wouldn't you think you'd try something at least different? I mean, it seems like you're running the same product out there, hoping for different outcomes. And for legendary coaches like that just kind of boggles my mind. But yeah, I just thought that. Not I'd throw that out there. That and being a Notre Dame fan, it irritated the shit out of me that people were after one bad season. I mean, I would go out on a limb and say in the last 15 years, Coach Bray's had at least a competitive team out there.
Yeah, and they're never gonna be the basketball powerhouse. I mean, but I think that's what people. I think that's what the fans want to see. I mean, they see a football team that is, competing for championships every single year. They're playing in big time games, and that I think that's what the fans want to see. They want to. I mean, you're seeing, you go up to Michigan and you're seeing that basketball program that 10, 15 years ago was pretty much non-existent, and then until Beeline took over that job, he's kind of he's what made Michigan a basketball school. I mean, he put them on the map. He
Basketball
made them competitive.
School,
yeah, and then Juwan Howard comes in, and I think Juwan Howard went from being a great program to making it an elite program, because I think that's the type of, he's the recruiter that he's going to bring in the kids that Beeline just didn't have the ability to go and recruit and pull them to come to Michigan.
It's a hell of a dancer too.
Yeah. And so I think for Notre Dame, I have all the respect for Bray. I mean, I love him as a coach. I've always been a fan of him. But I think that that probably the Notre Dame fans, the diehard basketball fans, are probably just tired of mediocre. They've been mediocre for years, and they want to see them go with a fresh face, and probably it probably is time for Notre Dame to go to a fresh face, and that's nothing against Bray at all, but I mean we've seen it all season long. It's not just Notre Dame. It's having this problem where it's time to move on, or maybe we went with this guy for too long, and I think it's kind of coming front and center for some of these big time coaches. When we talk about Coach K, I think his days in Duke are numbered. I really do. I think that he still has the ability to bring in some really some powerhouse classes. Absolutely, he's at fucking Duke. I mean, so you're gonna do that year in, year out, but
Duke's gonna sell itself.
Yeah, and same thing with Calipari in Kentucky. He's always gonna bring in the talent, but has his coaching style, has his philosophy on the game maybe has it been passed up? I believe so. I believe so.
I think too, especially when it comes to that Notre Dame campus, they're especially used to the girls team being dominant. And now that Muffet's not there anymore, they're having their struggles. So now both the teams are kind of subpar. So I think the frustration is from both sides of it. So we'll see what happens. And then, maybe with a new face, they get a new, recruiting style and get some of the, I don't think I've ever seen a Notre Dame player be one and done. But maybe with I'm sure that the changes that are coming down the pike are going to change a lot of coaching, if they do come to fruition, of course. But I think you're going to see a lot of recruiting strategies change up. So that's neither here nor there because we're talking about this year's tournament. And yes, 2K's the reason I'm pumped, and by the way, everyone that's listening or watching, I guess watching, you really can't, if you're listening, you can't see it. But I did post the link to the Facebook group in the comments, so if you want to hop in there, have fun, and like I said, that group is some of the most on point for news and breaking news and anything. So if nothing else, it's definitely worth the follow for that, and all the stupid shit that I post on there. But the thing that has me kind of the most excited, and I'm pretty sure I say this every year, but especially this year, there's probably a dozen teams that could win the tournament. It's not like there's a dominant number 1 and number 2 seed that are bound to meet in the national title game. This is something where like the North Carolina team we talked about that just beat the shit out of Duke. They're projected as a 10 seed. Again, they're a team that could get hot and make a very, very good run. Getting back to old school coaches, Roy Williams he's one of those old school coaches, and we were kind of dogging on him at the beginning of the season about how he's one of those blue bloods that were sucking ass, and he's turned that team around to a team that's definitely. I'm pretty sure. I think safely we can say they've punched they're going to punch a ticket to the dance. It's just where they position them. So there's so many teams, like the aforementioned Oklahoma State, and I put North Carolina in that same kind of bubble of teams that right now they're playing their best basketball. I don't want to play them. I don't want anything to do with them until later rounds because they could beat anybody. They could, they have the power. They have the powerhouse kind of mentality to them right now. They have the mojo working, and kind of what you're seeing, what I'm liking with a lot of these teams is, obviously as we've kind of progressed in with the NBA, and with the NBA comes the popularity of it in the college game is the 3-point shot. But I've seen too many teams that rely on the 3-point shot, especially in these venues, go cold. And what you're seeing a lot now is a lot of these teams have big guys, and they're big guys that can shoot, but you're seeing Cochran from Illinois. That kid's huge. But he's agile. He's big. He's agile. During the broadcast last night, they were oddly enough comparing him to Shaq, which I think is they're two totally different players and two totally different body types. But it's just big guy to big guy, and you're it being kind of the I guess the old guy in the traditionalist. I like post play. Why? Because post play will play in any scenario. If you're in a big stadium, play in the post will travel to there. If you're playing in a small gym, it'll play there. Why? Because it doesn't matter because they're so close to the basket. 3-point shooters, when you get in these big arenas, sometimes have a lot of trouble gauging their shot because they're used to the backgrounds and stuff of their home stadiums. And now you put them in these football stadiums, which I guarantee a lot of these games are going to be played at Lucas Oil Arena, which that's where the Colts play. For those of you that don't know what that is it's a whole lot bigger stadium than these college courts. So I've seen it time and time again. So post play will travel. And I'm stoked to see that there's a lot more teams reliant on the big man. And if you want my bracket advice, 2K crew, pick the teams that have the best big guys, because I think that's going to be a really it's going to be a big story going throughout this tournament. You're going to see. I'm not going to say diminished guard play by any means, because guard play will always drive the game. But I think the teams that have established big guys, aka Iowa, aka Illinois, like we just talked about, those are the two that just fly off right. Baylor is another one that has a couple big guys that can bang around down there.
Michigan has Dickinson.
Yep. So I mean, and if you haven't noticed, those are the teams that are at the top. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm giving you free bracket advice here on the show today.
Yeah, I mean,
take it for what you will. Take it for what you will.
I'll even take it a step further. With the bracket advice, to me, there is 4 teams, maybe possibly 5 teams, just because Iowa has Garza. Those top 5 teams right now, in my opinion, are the only 5 teams that can go on and go through this entire bracket and win a championship. Haven't seen the bracket yet to see how it plays out. Just to to see, because there's always that team that ends up in a region that could be a matchup problem for some other team.
The bracket of death.
Yeah,
there's always one every year.
But I know I've watched a lot of college basketball this year, and to me, Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, Illinois, those 4 teams have separated themselves from the pack. That I have not seen a team in the nation that I think could beat them at a neutral site. I don't see it happening. Could be wrong, obviously.
Yeah.
But those 4 teams have separated themselves and as the best teams in college basketball. I don't think there's any way that changes. That those are your 4. Those should be the 4 number 1 seeds. And I think that it's a pretty easy call in my book that a 1 seed wins the national championship this year.
So, probably the largest question looming that I have for you 2Ks is, out of your 3 brackets, how many of them are you going to have Michigan winning? That is the question that the 2K crew wants, is, are you going to have all 3? Are you going to have 2? Because I have a feeling that you're going to go 2 Michigan wins and 1 Illinois win. That's just my feeler. Like I said, we haven't seen the final brackets, but another thing that I think they're going to do on purpose, because like we talked about the bracket of death. They're gonna put Gonzaga with that bracket of death as kind of a point to say, you haven't played anybody. Here's your chance, which I think is totally unfair, because if they're the number 1 seed overall,
yeah, I mean, and we've knocked them. We've knocked their schedule a lot, but 24-0 is 24-0. I mean, regardless of what conference you play in, they haven't been beaten, and they did play against some legitimate opponents at the beginning of the season. Some of the games that we were hoping to see, like the Gonzaga and Baylor matchup, was postponed because of COVID. Never happened. But Gonzaga was I want to say they beat Iowa at the beginning of the season by damn near 20 points. So,
but it just seems like the tournament committee does this on purpose. And they've done it to Gonzaga in years previous. They've also done it to I remember specifically a Wichita State team that, again, went undefeated and I think lost in the second round because the bracket was just brutal. And is it fair? I don't know. I'm not sitting in the committee meeting, so I really couldn't tell you. But you're right. The top 4 teams, no matter what happens in any of their conference tournaments, they're solid. Those four, in my opinion, are not moving. Even if Iowa does happen to upset Michigan or Illinois, I still don't think they're taking over either of those spots. Especially if they beat a Michigan team, which would be their third loss. So no, I think those four have totally solidified where they're at.
And I mean, it's something to be said. Michigan won the Big Ten. They won the Big Ten outright. And if anybody wants to stand here and argue that the Big Ten is not the best conference in college basketball,
right,
I would be glad to have that argument with you because you know nothing about basketball.
I'll give you 2K's personal cell phone number so you guys can hash it out.
I mean, it's not even fucking close. Like, not even close. So if you win that conference outright, and then you also have a team, Illinois, who was right on them. I mean, up until the second to last game of the season, had their opportunity to win that conference outright. Also, those two teams better be number one seeds.
Yeah. Well, like I said, obviously, if you guys want any more bracket help, probably the best. I know I gave you a little tidbit, but probably the best advice I can give you with the tournament is just give me your money, because I'm going to win. I say this every year, but just give me your money. Just give me your money, and it'll be painless. You don't have to worry about filling out brackets. Just trust me. Trust me.
By the way, getting back to the question about how many brackets I'll have Michigan, I only do one bracket.
Yeah.
I only need one.
See, there you go. 2Ks might as well give me his money as well. So 2Ks, we're gonna jump.
And I'm picking the best team in the nation to win it all.
Oh, so you're picking Baylor to win?
Leave it at that.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
We shall see where the chips fall, ladies and gentlemen. This is, we can talk projections, we can talk where we think things will fall, but the best part about March Madness is filling out the brackets, and then after the first day realizing that your brackets are total bullshit. Yeah. So, and like I said, usually mine fall apart day 2. So I have a...
You have like a ball in day 1, and you think that, oh shit, this is my season.
I got this. And then all of a sudden, karma takes a shit all over my bracket. And
then your 3 seed that you sneaky picked to the Final Four gets
lost
knocked off in the first round.
Yep.
And you're like, fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to move from taking a shit on brackets to something a little bit more warm, let's say. Spring training baseball. And 2Ks, this is one of my favorite times of the year. And I really wish I had another week of vacation, because I already took Thursday and Friday off for March Madness. And I really want to take opening day off. Because on opening day, there are not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 baseball games back to back on ESPN on opening day, which I think is April 26th, I think, off the top of the dome. And I believe kicking off the first one is the Blue Jays and the Yankees. Gonna be awesome. I can't wait. And especially that Blue Jays team, I'm really stoked to watch those young kids. And there's so many... I was trying to put together in my head before we started kind of how I wanted to approach this. And there was about 18 things that came to my mind. So, I really couldn't gather my thoughts well enough to kind of put together kind of like a bullet points in my brain. But let's start off with, because usually, let's start off with starting pitching. Good pitching can shut down good hitting, so I figured why not start out with that. And the thing that I'm gonna go right at it, 2Ks. The thing that jumped out at me at most is Shohei Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
I think barring injury, this dude one day in spring training hits a 500-foot fucking bomb. 2 days later, pitches like 1 2/3. Was a little wild at times, but do 100. Dude hits 500-foot bombs and then tops 100. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unfucking believable. Unbelievable. Another one that jumped out was, and I just saw this morning, and it's gonna. I think this is gonna help solidify you 2Ks with your hatred of Trevor Bauer. I think this is just gonna go flow right into it, because in his second start he was pitching with one eye closed.
Yeah.
And not only pitched with one eye, but proceeded to tell everybody about it. And when asked about it, said, "Well, if they can't hit me with one eye open, they sure as hell can hit me with two." So
it's so dumb. Like, it's so fucking dumb.
waiting for this.
Something has happened to this guy.
I was waiting for this.
I know that he's always been a little bit out there. And I think that's what a lot of us liked about him. But now he's so fucking far out there. He's coming across as like the not as bad of a version, but just so fucking out there. He's almost acting like Antonio Brown, and like what he did on the football field, and not what Antonio Brown did off the football field.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. But what he was doing on the field, and that shit worked for a while. But then that shit got really, really tiring. Yeah. And then people were over it. And now we're at spring training games, and his agent is talking on there, and just talking about this and this and that. And it's like, I don't fucking care.
No.
I care about what's happening in between the lines. Yes, Trevor Bauer is one of the best pitchers in the game. Absolutely. Not going to argue that for a second.
Yeah.
But the shit and the way that he's acting, like, he's turning into that guy that I rank him right down there with all the guys on the Astros as far as Altuve and Bregman and all. Put him right there on that fucking list, and I hope the guy gets shelled every fucking time he steps foot on a mound. I hope it happens.
Thank God I teed this up for you, because I was hoping for this reaction. And here's my 2 cents, is that you're absolutely right. He is making more about what he's doing rather than what the team is doing.
Yep.
And
I get it. You want to market the game. I get it that you want to make baseball popular and you want to put it on the map. You're going about it the wrong fucking way, though.
I'm curious.
And you're the wrong person to be the face of it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how long this lasts, because yes, you're in Glam Town, you're in LA. I get that.
How long is it going to be until somebody like Clayton Kershaw says, "All right, let's go about it. Let's go about things in a different way. This is my motherfucking team.
Yeah.
I'm the motherfucking guy here as the pitchers. I don't give a fuck what you did last year. I don't give a fuck about what Walker Buehler's doing. I'm fucking Clayton Kershaw, and I'm probably the best goddamn pitcher that's ever fucking been in this city."
You have 1 Cy Young, I have 3.
Yeah.
So, but no, and on top of that, 2Ks, he's got to get in the box.
Yeah.
He's got to get in the box. And now I understand he's not personally doing anything to poke fun at anybody. I mean, he's doing it by himself. Mm-hmm. But at what point, you're right, there's like this Kershaw or Bellinger or some of those other guys, and Turner, the third baseman. I mean, him and Kershaw have kind of been like the old guys there. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling someone's going to step in, and it's going to reach a boiling point, and Dave Roberts is a pretty good guy to handle that. Mm-hmm. So looking forward, the antics, but on the mound, both his spring training starts have looked fantastic. Max Scherzer looked amazing. He's coming back from, he's got a little nagging ankle injury, but he looks amazing. Speaking of Kershaw, he's looked amazing too. Mm-hmm. I haven't got to see any of Bauer's, or not Bauer's, but Walker Buehler's. Any of his starts, but it seems like, of course, DeGrom, he again is DeGrom, and what I find different is all of these aces, and how that, if I'm not mistaken, Kershaw was throwing changeups in his first spring training start. Usually it's just tuning up a fastball. It's not uncommon to see, 2 innings, 5 earned runs, and 2 dingers, just because they're out there working their stuff. So to actually see these dudes being as dominant as they are is kind of a. I don't know if it was just the lack of games from last year that these guys didn't seem like they were that fatigued. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward Just and then taking that approach from a 60-game season, which pretty sure most of these managers that are in the game today have managed a 162-game season. So I really don't think that it's going to be, as far as the manager's concerned, getting the players into that routine again. It's going to be some of the players that haven't had that 162 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the, because what college season's like 35 games.
Mm-hmm.
So even the jump from 35 to 60 is still a big. It would be a big a jump now. The 162. So, are there any players that have caught your eye as far as, besides Mr. Bauer? Are there any players that have kind of tipped, gotten on your radar that you're excited? I know we touched base. Was it last week with the Tigers?
Mm.
Is there anything you want to expand on that, just from stuff you've seen?
Keeping it with the Tigers, something that was promising to me is watching Fulmer pitch yesterday, 2 innings.
I forgot about that one.
Two scoreless innings. Two scoreless innings. I get it. It's spring training. It's 2 innings. But to Michael Fulmer, that's a big deal. Yeah. We're talking about a guy last year that was basically what he was doing all last season. There was no spring training. We only had the 60-game season, but the Tigers ran him out there every 5th, 6th day. And
with an innings limit.
He was basically going to throw 2 innings, 3 innings. So it was basically a spring training game for him every single time.
Yep.
Well, I don't think the guy ever made it through scoreless inning ever throughout the entire season. And
I believe you're
the
correct.
velocity was down, and his command was down, and it was just, he just struggled. And to see him yesterday pitch, and then also he was supposed to start the second game of spring training. That all got pushed back because his wife and him welcomed their first child.
Oh, very
so he
nice.
ended up leaving for that, and then was late coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But the start was pushed out, I think, 6-7 days, and then to make that start and get it behind now, to get that behind him, 2 scoreless innings. I gotta believe that as far as confidence goes,
Absolutely.
he's got to be through the roof. 3 or 4 years ago, this was one of the best pitchers in the American League, rookie of the year. And, as far as some of the stuff that's been talked about as far as trade offers that the Tigers, at one time, according to reports, the Cubs were willing to trade Javi Baez to the Tigers for this guy. And also the Astros were interested in trading Bregman for Fulmer also. So, obviously, the caliber pitcher that this guy can be really, really good. And if the Tigers, to me, if they can get anywhere even close to what he was,
that's a huge win.
It's a huge win for them.
It's basically getting a free agent that you don't have to pay for, because basically, regardless of what happened last year, it was a rehab year. Just like you said, it was his spring training, coming off that he had Tommy John, correct?
Yep.
So it's not until usually probably 16 to 18 months until you're basically as close to where you were or better than you were, pre-procedure. So it's not fair to even try to evaluate what he did last year. Basically because the Tigers weren't going anywhere. They weren't making the playoffs, so they were using that, like you said, like spring training. So why not? And yes, that his confidence has to be through the roof. Because I can only imagine going through what he did, which any pitcher or any player when they go through a major injury like that, and then trying to, because I guarantee the competitor and all of us wants to get back as soon as we can, help our team get back into the rhythm that we basically lived our whole lives up to that point, especially when you're made it that far into the major leagues. That's basically your lifestyle. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle, and you have to keep yourself at prime condition to go out and perform. So yeah, I saw that come across the box score last night, and I was like, I totally forgot to look into that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And then as far as for the Tigers again, on the offensive side, Willie Castro. And maybe to a lot of people, his name is not a surprise. Maybe it is a surprise. I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of people that are talking about Tigers baseball as of late, other than myself.
Yeah, I think you'd be shocked.
But
I think you'd be shocked.
Willie Castro is a name that I think people should look out for, not only just as a Tigers fan, but as a baseball fan. I think he's going to be. I think he already is. On his way to being really, really good player. I think he's only like 22 years old, coming off of last season, and he wasn't up the entire time as far as in the 60-game season. But I'm looking at his stats right here. He had 129 at bats last year with 6 home runs and batted .349.
It's not too shabby.
Yeah, and that was his first major league stint. So I'm excited to see what he's doing. I know in the spring he's already got like 3 home runs. He's batting right around 500 for the spring. So he's kind of just picked up where he left off last season, and so I'm excited to kind of watch him as the season starts here.
Now, for especially like a kid like that, for non-Tigers fans, what position does he play?
Shortstop, but
Okay.
with the possibility they might have. That's the one kind of hole in his game right now is defensively. I don't know if his glove will be able to get him on the field every day
Right.
as a shortstop. You might have to translate to a second baseman or possibly a third baseman.
Okay. So yeah, it's and for all of you sports card collectors out there, you might want to check out his stuff too. FYI. FYI. So anything else over there? Any players that are jumping out at you?
I mean, other than that, with the kind of the young guys that we talk about all the time, you're the Riley Green. Everybody it's a Tigers fan is excited about that, and then obviously Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah.
Torkelson's still looking for his first hit this spring. It's been a struggle for him, so that part of it, I'd like to see him get his first hit of the spring, kind of
Sure.
behind him here sooner or later. But no, nothing but things to be really excited about with those two, obviously. And then yesterday, you watched the Fulmer do his thing for 2 innings, and then they had Skubal come and he did his 2 scoreless innings that followed right up. I think over the 2 innings he struck out 3.
Nice.
So another young arm that we're as Tigers fans we got to take whatever we can get at this point. Like we haven't really had a team that has competed for the last 6-7 years.
Right.
So to kind of see some of these young kids and see the future, it looks like maybe Al Avila had a plan this entire time.
And I'm sure as Tigers fans too, once these kids get on the field and you can kind of see reap some of the rewards that the Verlander trade brought over. Any of the trades that the big names that big name free agents or whatever, you're kind of seeing these kids come up and like we've talked about, if you followed us for any amount of time, we talk Tigers prospects and things like that quite a bit, and that's one of the things with baseball, ladies and gentlemen, is that normally the trades that they do are either high priced to high priced, so you're getting a MLB player for an MLB player, similar to the Lindor trade, or you get like the Verlander trade where you get a ton of prospects. So you really don't see these kids, 2 and 3 years down the road, depending on which level they are when they bring them over, obviously. But you don't see the immediate impact like you do with other sports like basketball, football. I mean, granted, they don't trade prospects; they trade players and draft picks. So essentially the draft picks are your farm system, if you want to think about it that way. And it's more tangible because you can see, there's only if they're trading for first round picks, exactly who your team drafted. And normally first round picks, just go right into the starting lineup. So we've talked about it at great lengths, and I'm sure that I'm sure the brass at the Tigers are happy to see some of these kids finally, blossoming and I'm not going to say reach their potential, but coming close to, they're furthering their potential to be with the big league team. Some of them at the break of camp, some of them in AAA or AA. So especially pitchers and stuff, they can rotate in and out, or even,
Yeah.
there's many different ways and I think by the end of the season, you're going to see a lot of these kids, especially if it comes to, September call-ups and stuff like that. What the hell? Bring up Torkelson and let him see what he can do.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, us fans, we want to see the Detroit put money back into it. Start bringing in some of these free agents. We got some of these bad contracts kind of off the books now. I get it. We still got the Miggy contract, but still Miguel Cabrera. If he shows up to camp and he's healthy, and he looks like he's healthy right now, and and we haven't really seen a whole lot of him playing yet this spring, but. If he's healthy, he could. He's one of the best hitters we've ever seen. He could show up and bat 300 and hit 20 home runs, and I don't know if we'll ever see those days again. I hope we do. I think so. I don't think that's out of the question to think that could happen. But the more you see some of these young kids coming up, like the pitching staff, like the Casey Mize and Skubal and Fulmer being healthy, and then Willie Castro and Isaac Paredes and Torkelson and all these guys offensively. Once they come up and I think as the organization knows that they're ready to go and they're ready, that's when they're going to put the money into it.
Sure.
What's the point of putting money into it if these kids aren't all ready to play?
No.
I mean, because then it's all a timing thing. You got to have everything come together at the right time to go and compete for something. But to me, if you put money into it and these guys aren't ready to be playing at the major league level, it's a big waste. Then you're running right back into the same problem you were in because in order to bring in the talent that you want to bring in, you're going to have to spend some money. And unfortunately for that means you're going to have to get into some contracts that, for the first 2 or 3 years of that contract, it might be good, but then the back half of that contract might not be good for you. And that's just how it works.
And you and I have talked at great lengths about, especially after this season, there's going to be a plethora, well, unless they all get extended, but a plethora of amazing shortstop talent hitting the market. So, and obviously Lindor leads the pack with that, but he's obviously talking to the Mets about extending him. I mean, and I'm sure Corey Seager and the Dodgers are probably already talking extension. It wouldn't. The one lingering out there that I have a very, very good feeling is going to hit free agency is Trevor Story. Just because.
Well, they let
Arenado
walk for a fucking water jug.
Yeah.
And I mean, Trevor Story he's not going to stay in Colorado. And to me, possibly out of all those shortstops that are going to be free agents, he might be the best out of all of them as far as both sides, defensively and offensively. And because he plays in Colorado, we don't ever talk about him. Yeah. I mean, we just don't. Arenado was one of the best players in all of baseball, and hardly ever was talked about because he played in Colorado. And DJ LeMahieu, before that, wasn't hardly talked about. Now that he became a Yankee, all of a sudden he's one of the best hitters in the game, which we already knew he was. He was already that.
He won a batting title, and no one knew who the fuck he was in the National League. But on top of skill-wise, price tag-wise too, I think just him. He's not going to be able to generate the contract that the Corey Seager.
He doesn't have the flash.
Like I said, no one fucking watches their games.
Lindor, and then the possibility of Javi Baez being a free agent also. The flash that those two guys have. I mean, that's just basically the flash that they have, how smooth they are playing the game. That's what people want to see, and that's what That's what puts fans in the stands. That's what puts people in the stands wearing their jerseys, and it's a popularity thing. And those two, they just have it to where a guy like Trevor Story, he just goes and kind of under the radar. You don't talk about him a whole lot, but then you look at his stats, and he batted 280, 290, had 30 plus home runs, and damn near 100 RBIs, and that's just normal year for him.
Well, 2Ks, he plays in Colorado, the air is thinner. Of course he's going to hit more home runs.
Yeah, that's what they said about LeMahieu also, and I think he's kind of proven in his 2 years in New York that...
You want a batting title again?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, when it comes to hits, you can spray hits anywhere on the planet. I don't care if it's in the mountains or in the desert. But, and obviously LeMahieu, he's a switch hitter, correct? Yeah, so that short porch and right with the Yankee Stadium, I'm sure helps out a lot. But at the end of the day, the dude hits. He can play third, short, second, first, wherever the fuck you want him to play. And so yeah, he definitely earned his contract. With like I said, he re-signed with the Yankees. But that would be the one spot where after this year, if the Tigers did make a free agency move, that would be one of them. Because, like you said, there's a glaring hole. Is Castro the fill? I don't know. Me personally, I think he'd flourish better as a second baseman. But it's all going to play out. But I think making that move makes sense. You know, I'm not saying by all means do a 13-year deal with Trevor Story, like some of these crazy ass deals that are these extensions that dudes are signing. But I'm not saying do that, but maybe a 5-year deal. See if you can get something like that, because I think a 5-year window is A, still in his prime, and B, I think the Tigers in 5 years, by the time that 5-year contract is over, they're going to be back and making noise in not only the Central but in the playoffs. So that to me that would be a smart contract. I wouldn't overpay for Trevor Story. You know, he's definitely, like we said, he's definitely not getting Frankie Lindor money, whatever his contract's going to be, or even Javi Baez, which that's a situation in Chicago that team could fall apart really fucking quick. Because you have him, Bryant, and Rizzo, I believe, all are going to be free agents after this year. And can you keep all of them? I don't know. They did, you know, with the Darvish trade, I'm sure opened up a little bit of money there. Because if I remember correctly, that Darvish deal wasn't super expensive, but it wasn't super cheap either. So it's Chicago's another team that, you know, I'm not saying they're the Marlins when they won their World Series and just blew the team up. I mean, this is something that these guys have been being pretty much brought through the system, and it just so happens that they're all going to hit free agency at the same time. So if it's me, I'm keeping Rizzo for sure, and I gotta let Chris Bryant walk. I gotta let Chris. As much of a fan favorite as he is, I think you would have a mutiny on the north side if you kept Bryant and let Baez walk.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any way they can let Baez go.
No.
You know, to me, the one that I think that I would, and I probably Cubs fans don't ever want to hear it, but I mean, I would want Bryant and Baez before I wanted anything to do with Rizzo anymore. And nothing against Rizzo, I just don't think that. For one, he's the oldest guy there, but I think that's why a lot of Cubs fans absolutely adore the guy, is because he was there when the Cubs were not. You know, the Cubs were terrible, and he was there living that. These other guys like your Baez and like Bryant, they showed up when everything was good. Everything was on the up and up.
Yes.
And they were chasing the World Series, and that was when they showed up and with Rizzo, you know, he was there when they were a fucking joke.
One of the reasons I say Rizzo is because I think his price tag is going to be the lowest out of all
absolutely.
three. And if you're going to be able, because if you're going to be able to keep two of them, I think Rizzo has to be one of them, just because of his price tag. Not to say he's a horrible player, but he's a top 5 National League first baseman.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and he's been like you said, he's been the rock of that team, and I'm not taking anything away from Chris Bryant either. I just think his asking price is going to be probably the asking price for Baez, just because, you know, I think he's going to be wanting Lindor money, and I think Lindor money is going to be very similar to Tatis money. So we shall see where all these price tags end up. I think it essentially is how it's going to work. So we might be putting the cart before the horse here, 2K crew, but that's just kind of it's going to be a developing story throughout the whole year, and it's going to. And that NL Central didn't get any worse. The Reds are better. The Cardinals are obviously going to go in as the favorite of that team now, especially with Arenado. And so yeah, it's not getting any. And fuck, the Cardinals. We haven't even talked about Jack Flaherty. That kid, I hate to tell you my NL Cy Young Award winner right now, because he's going to be in the top 5 in mine. So, spoiler alert, keep an eye on that, because we're going to dive into this a lot further. We're going to give you our way too early rankings, and yes, we'll follow up at the end of the year and show you how wrong we actually are. So that's always a fun time too. So, but 2Ks, we've actually went over our hour, which isn't a big deal. We don't explode after an hour. But is there anything else to wrap up here? I know we're all, like I said, Monday or Tuesday, I will post a link to the bracket challenge, so keep an eye out for that. The way that works is, if you're interested, I'll have my PayPal link there. Everything's done via PayPal, so there's no. I'm not chasing you for fucking money. That's the easiest way to do it. That's the way we do our fantasy football, and it's the most amazing thing, because you send me money, you win shit at the end, I send you money. There's no checks, there's no cash. No one loses anything, and I don't have to have a shit ton of cash in my house, which I do not like. So, once I get PayPal confirmed that you have sent the $10, it's $10 for 3 brackets. I will send you the password, or you can just send me your $10 and say, here's my donation. I don't need any brackets. Either way. But yeah, I will do that early, first thing this week. So keep an eye out on that. It's always kind of a crapshoot when to do that, because you don't want to do it too early, and then people forget about it. And you don't want to do it too late, and people are scrambling, and there's a lot of people, I didn't fucking know about it. You should have done it earlier. So I figure this is the right time, and then because it's getting down to the nitty gritty. Down to the nitty gritty. As excited as I am, we're watching the Florida-Tennessee game, and I did see there was a Big Ten game going on, and I didn't catch. It was Iowa. Regardless, the score was extremely close. So, as much fun as these regular season games are, the conference championship or the conference tournaments are just a teaser for what's coming on. So
Iowa, Wisconsin. That was the game.
Yeah, and it was close at one point.
Yeah, 60-60 right now.
Oh, wow.
3 minutes to go.
All right, well, 2K Crew, you all have a fantastic week. We will see you next weekend. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.